Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's program. You are at the home of NYU Abu Dhabi in New York. It may seem an odd place to come for this lecture that will focus on Curitiba, but the scope of our programs here at NYU Abu Dhabi in New York is as wide as the curriculum of NYU Abu Dhabi, which is a liberal arts, science, and engineering program. The study of cities is important to our program in Abu Dhabi as it is increasingly to the program in New York. Of course, one of the things that make NYU so magical is its location here in New York City. So this lecture tonight is part of a series that we have organized on new approaches to city planning and slum upgrading. The next lecture will take place on Monday, April 8th. It is entitled Slum Sanitation in Africa, thinking about the worst performing Millennium Development Goal. And our speaker is Robert Buckley, who is now at the New School, who had come to the New School very recently from the Rockefeller Foundation, where he was involved in significant programs relating to that topic. So I hope we'll see you again on April 8th. Tonight, we're very pleased to welcome Jaime Lerner. He has been an inspiration to all of us who have cared about cities, because through his work as the mayor over 12 years of Curitiba, Brazil, the 8th largest city in Brazil, and then again as the governor of the state in which it is located, Parana, he has demonstrated to us that seemingly intractable problems can be tackled, that there are flexible solutions if you are creative and you are willing to imagine new ways of doing things. The bus rapid transport that he initiated there is one such example that has had progeny in cities all around the world. But it's not just that, it's the integration of social programs, parks, transportation in service of an urban dream, an urban commitment. That is, he explained at a lunch we had earlier today with the urban planning students, focused on mobility, sustainability, and tolerance as we cohabit with people different from ourselves. So we are delighted that you could be with us and we could learn from a master. Okay, thank you.
I'm very pleased to share with you some of the experience we faced through all these decades working with cities. But I remember once I was in Lima, Peru, and walking in the streets, I saw a wall. It was during elections, so it was written in Spanish, of course. Basta de obras, queremos promesas. Enough public works, we want promises. Of course, it's not the idea of promises. I think we want dreams. And that's what I'd like to share with you. It's a story of reality and dreams. First of all, we're considering there are so many cities that they have similar problems. For instance, education, healthcare, the care of children, safety. But now, more and more, three issues are becoming so important, not only for your city, but for the whole mankind. It's a question of mobility, the question of sustainability, and also coexistence, tolerance, And I think these three issues are very, very important. And also, when we realize that 75% of carbon emissions are related to the cities, and the half of the problem is the car, so we can imagine that the city could play a very effective role on changing the situation or on helping to solve the problem of climate change. It's working with the cities that we can really make a difference. So that's the issue. What is a sustainable city? A few years ago, I made a movie with a friend of mine, a great Brazilian filmmaker called Carlos Deiro. We made the movie, it was for a festival of movies here in New York, a festival of movies about sustainability. And it's a 7-minute movie, and we tried to make the children understand about sustainability. This movie won the prize of the festival. It's not a big deal because we didn't have too much competitors. But anyway, I won the festival of movies. So this movie, it's on the YouTube. It's called A Convenient Start. This 6-7 minute movie, A Convenient Start. The idea is trying to give, because sometimes there are people making so complex this issue, and we wanted to make it very easy to understand. So if we want to help sustainability, there are at least 3 key issues. One is use your car less. And so I'm not saying don't use your car. I'm saying that in your routine itinerary, you'll have to deal more and more with public transport. I used to say that the car is the cigarette of the future. So, and I'm sure then in less than 10 years it would happen. Of course, you will have your car, you will have your cigarette, but depends where you're going to smoke. So, you have your car for leisure, for travel, but for routine itineraries, you have to handle with public transport. So the second issue is, one is use your car less. Second, separate your garbage. The third, live closer to your work or bring work closer to home. And most of all, trying to understand that sustainability is an equation between what we save and what we waste. So that makes more simple, because sometimes there are people trying to make, trying to propose or trying to to say that a city is so complex. A city is not so complex, then the complexity sellers want us to understand that. And the world is full of complexity sellers. So, the third issue is live closer to your home, or live closer to work, or bring work closer to home. Okay. So, all these years working on cities, I realized that more and more it's always a learning process. And so, what I would like to share is the idea how we work in the cities. Why my city, the city of Curitiba, is becoming a good reference. I don't like to say a model, because my city is not a paradise. We have all the problems that most Brazilian cities they have. But at least there is some quality on the public. Let's say when you need the public transport, there is a good public transport. When you need good education, there is good education. There is health care centers. There are health care centers, and also daycare centers for free. And so the quality of the public facilities giving to people, providing to people, it shows a respect for people. The people, they feel respected. And when they feel respected, they assume a kind of co-responsibility with their city. So, first of all, when we want to make a change in the city, it's necessary a political will, solidarity, a strategic vision, and also trying to make for a problem, to transform a problem in a solution, to build a good equation of co-responsibility. So the metaphor I have for a city is the turtle. The turtle, why? Because it's a structure of living and working and moving together. This is very important. And at the same time, the shell of the turtle looks like an urban tessiture. So we can see if we'll cut the shell of the turtle, so living here, working there, having leisure there, we're going to kill the turtle. And that's exactly what many cities in the world are doing. By separating urban functions, by separating people by income, ghettos of very rich people, ghettos of very poor people, separating people by ages, by religion. So every time when we're trying to do this, it's for the city, it's a disaster. So always the question of every city is a structure of living and working together. When in a country, in a city, we separate economy from urban, from life, from people, it's not good. So a city is a structure of living and working, moving together. I used to give this example. This from a book I wrote about 20 years ago. The book is called Neighbors, a Street Side Relative. Neighbor, a Street Side Relative. There are some characters. There are the automobile, which is a very egotist guy, a guy who goes to a party. The party is over, it's finished, but he never wants to leave. The chairs are on the table, and this guy drinks a lot, and he coughs a lot. And I used to say many times, I said that, I'm sorry if I'm repeating, that the car is like our mother-in-law. We have to have good relationship with her, but we cannot leave, she'll conduct our life. In other words, if the only woman of your life is your mother-in-law, you have a problem. So, at the same time, the cars are very demanding, because every time more and more public works, more and more expressways, so it's very expensive. It's a very expensive cousin. So, on the other hand, accordion, the friendly bus, and also want to share with you why I like to say that it's important. Okay, thank you. It's important that every city has a design. What is the design of a city? It's a strange archaeology that tries to link old roads, old ways, and to link this with the history and when it's linked, living, working, and moving through a structure which has to do with the history, you can have a design of the city. A city that doesn't have a design doesn't have a priority. So some cities, the design of Curitiba, Rio, Oaxaca, Mexico, San Francisco, very easy to understand. And this is the design of Curitiba. It's a structure where we have a better offer of public transport when we have more density. It's linked, the land use with the density with offer of public transport. And this is how it works. The best elogio, who can help me?
Praise.
The best
Praise. Praise.
praise?
Yes.
The best praise that I have in my life, it was my former driver. When I was mayor, at that time we didn't have, we used to carry the model of the city all the time, to discussing with every neighborhood. Every night we went to a different neighborhood and we discussed the city. And he helped me to do the model every night. So, more than 15 years after, he was still my driver. I was the governor, and I had to go to Brasilia. So he took me to the airport and I asked him, "Do you know Brasilia?" He said, "No, I don't know. I didn't have the chance to go there. So come with me. But I never took an airplane. So, second reason, come with me. So when the plane took off, he looked at the city and said, "Huh, exactly what I like the model." So this is great to hear this. The planning of the city well, we could fulfill this dream, this design. And well, this is very the system of public transport, which are dedicated lanes, boarding facilities, and because you're boarding in the same level, you're paying before entering the bus, and a good frequency, good headway. You don't have to wait more than 1 minute. And this is how it works. When we started in 1974, it was 50,000 passengers per day. Now we are transporting 2.5 million passengers per day. And the system pays by itself. So when we realized that the subway, the underground in London, has 3 million passengers per day, and we have 2.5 million passengers, and London is the oldest subway in the world, and a much, much bigger city. That means a lot. And the system pays by itself. The cost is 50 to 100 times less expensive than a subway. You know, here in New York, for 50 years, we discussed the Second Avenue line. Now they're starting, so it will take at least more 10 years. So it's 60 years, $4 billion, and this line would not transport more passengers than the bus that goes in front of my office in Curitiba. So what is what makes the difference? It's very simple. A tube or a cylinder that you're boarding in the same level, and it gives to the bus the same performance than the subway. It's like metronizing the bus. And this is how it looks. You're boarding in the same level. And how many subways in the world they have facilities for the handicapped? We have a very simple cylinder that helps, and so they can use normally the whole system. It's not special, it's adapted that they can use as any other passenger independently. So they are not pushed, but we started the idea with the boarding tube in Rio in 1983. The idea was providing integration between the subway and the bus. But at that time, the people from the subway, they were against, and the private initiative that they ran the buses, they were against. So it didn't happen. But 25 years after, the subway company and the private companies, they contracted us to develop the idea of the mobility for the Olympic Games in Rio. So, what is the key issue? We had for many years a false debate between the car and the subway. The answer is not the car and not the subway. The answer is trying to organize a good integration between the subway, when you have some lines, so that means you will have a smart subway, a smart bus, a smart taxi, the bicycle, and what I call a new element that we're having to deal from in the future, individual public transport. So, but they have to be combined. We have to integrate. The secret of mobility is combining all you have. So, in Paris, when they started, they transformed the bike in a public transport. So, and we are developing the idea, the design of the smallest car in the world. Is the half of the smart on the width and the half of the length. And I can fit inside the car. So we developed many ideas, many prototypes for 2 seats, but the more recent, this car is made with paper. It's honeycomb, and it's very resistant, and it's recyclable. So this is the car we're working. Now we're working, it's electric of course, and we have to organize a way how to feed the energy in the most easiest way. The idea why I took this car in Paris, I took this car in Berlin, and they thought I was crazy. And they're right. But what is the idea? We have the dedicated lanes for the bus. The idea is sharing the light, say slow traffic with bikes and the dock. That's the name of the car. Dock. Knock is the dock. So the idea is the station, the boarding tube. We're working on, we're developing an idea of an e-BRT, electric BRT, which the energy will come from the station, from the boarding station, and that would also provide energy for the cars. So that's the idea. We're working hard in this issue because there are many cars, electric cars, many fancy cars. Many European companies, they develop a very fancy car. But what happened? These cars are designed to a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. And so it's designed for high speed, and they're trying to put these cars in the roads and big traffic, And the big cars they're putting inside the city. It's not logic. So our idea is putting the small car, very small, the speed this speed cannot bring damage to you or to another people. So it has to have a speed of 20, 25 kilometers per hour. That's why it's so simple. It's not a performance car. Let's put the big cars on the road. And they're doing, you're going in Paris to the Champs-Élysées, every car industry they are putting on the windows, the very fancy cars, good design, but it's 400 kilometers. It's going to bring damage for you or for your accidents and everything. So you have to have a more domestic system. This is the design we did for Rio, for the Olympic Games. The idea is one more line for the subway and 4 or 5 lines on BRTs. The integration, the idea of our project was integration through these tubes. And you're disembarking from the car, you're going to the concourse, and after you're taking the buses. It's different vehicles but the same system. And can you imagine how beautiful it could be in the landscape of Rio? But it's not going to happen this way. They changed the details, but anyway, they're doing a good job. They're implementing the BRT, which is there as one. Well, when we started in Curitiba, it was the first city in the world. Now we have 125 cities. The last one is Rio, that they are developing a BRT system. It's similar. Every city has its own conception, but the same way it's similar to the BRT. So, some ideas. What I'd like to say is it's very important to have a proposal. We are professionals of the proposal. To make it happen, you have to have always a scenario, an idea, a project that everyone or the large majority, they understand it's desirable. If they understand it is desirable, they'll help you to make it happen. So this is the idea for São Paulo, which is the Great Promenade. We proposed. It's not happening, not yet, but I hope it's going to happen. The idea is, in São Paulo, they have some lines of the subway, but 84% of people they are moving on surface. So it's a surface that has to be improved. There's a surface that has to be improved. So, but on the other hand, the railroad, suburban railroad is improving a lot. So the whole idea is taking profit of the design of the suburban railroad and building a great promenade, integrating and connecting. So the idea is having a São Paulo without periphery, that you can link to this structure any kind of neighborhood, high income, middle income, low income, and the promenade will link everything, and bicycles and electric cars And that's the idea. Sometimes you start with an idea, and during the years, the people will change, will make it better. Okay? But always it's important to start. So that's the idea for São Paulo, and let's talk a little bit about sustainability. The city of Curitiba had in 1971 a half square meter of green area per inhabitant. Now we have 60 square meters of green area per inhabitant. In a few years we had 50, now we have 60. And what was the reason? We started building squares, but during our meetings, the people used to say, why are you trying to build very expensive squares, and you will have to wait 20 years until the trees will grow up? Why not saving existing woods? And we started to do that. In a few years, now it's 15 square meters of green area per inhabitant. Now it's 60. And all over parks, you know, a quarry is a want made in nature. But during the years, this one transforms in a new landscape. And we took advantage for the new landscape, and we proposed for one quarry an open university for the environment. This is another place, a botanic garden. How long it takes to build a botanic garden? 100 years. This botanic garden was built in 3 months. It's not a miracle. We're still going to plant during 100 years. But we proposed a place where we can use the botanic garden immediately. And this is the old quarry, and we built, it's called the War Opera, it's a theater. It was built in 2 months. How? We made a bid for the manpower and a bid for the material. It's only one material. This kind of structure. And in 2 months it was finished. And it's a beautiful theater. This is an old landfill for garbage. And this was cleaned and it's becoming a beautiful park. But the whole idea about sustainability started when we had to deal with garbage. Because our city is not so big, we needed space for landfills we couldn't have. So the whole idea was, why not separating our garbage? Because there is a garbage which is not garbage. So, and we started to teach the children in every school during 6 months, and every child and the children, they teach their parents. And after, we started the campaign. The campaign was a musical, a garbage which is not a garbage. It's very simple. You have organic and recyclable. So my house, I'm twice a week I put my recyclable in the curbside in front of my house, and it's twice a week. It's a collect. It's not a kind of of a way that you're taking your garbage to a gas station. So it's a curb system. So, and we started in many ways the first time we had a big problem on, slums. Mostly they are in the hills in Rio, or in Curitiba they are in the bottom valleys. But the access for trucks was very difficult. So the people, they used to throw away their garbage, and pollution and small streams, it was terrible. And the kids playing in the pollution. So we decided to do one thing. We're gonna buy the garbage. Don't throw it away. Just bring a bag to the closest place where the truck is, and we're going to trade you not by money, but a transport token. And that helped. In 3-4 months, the slums, they were clean, and it helped many families on their income. So after that, we trade garbage by food, by books, by tickets of football or theater, for everything. And every time the people understood why it's so important. Okay, there's another issue. I used to say always that if you want creativity, cut 1 0 from your budget. If you want sustainability, cut 2 zeros. If you want solidarity, assume your identity and respect others' diversity. So diversity is becoming very important because there are references. We don't have many buildings, landmarks, or national landmarks, but they are good references. And we listed all these buildings, and this depot, powder depot, gunpowder depot, was transformed in a theater in 1971. This small theater, it was, during many years, was very important to all Brazilian artists, because in that theater we had all the great performers. Antônio Carlos Jobim, Vinícius de Moraes, Elis Regina, Caetano Veloso, all of them. And also we had a discussion every Monday before the amnesty. We had a discussion where former presidents, at that time they were not presidents, they at the same time they were not. We didn't have the amnesty, and they started. We had a great discussions in this, where the former presidents Lula and Fernando Henrique Cardoso, and the artists were. It was a very, very interesting time. And this is the historic center. It's mostly German architecture. And this is the main street, the pedestrian mall. This place was transformed in a pedestrian place in 72 hours. So we started one Friday night, and the first blocks And on Monday night we finished because we had to do it very fast. After in the discussion, I would like to explain why it has to be fast. This is the building that tells the whole history, the whole heritage of Curitiba. And because we have a very diverse ethnic contribution. During the 300th anniversary, we built some symbols of this diversity. This is the Italian portal, in the neighborhood where there are more Italians. And the Ukrainian park, the Polish park, the Japanese square, the German park. And all of a sudden, at that time the Soviet Union, they split. So since we had people from everywhere, from Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, we had to stop the program because we didn't have so many parts. So what I'm doing now, I left politics 10 years ago. I have no regrets, but I like more to work as an architect. And I can tell you, I'm having fun. And what I'm working now, we're in urban acupuncture. Sometimes, it takes too much time to change. So the process of planning takes a lot of time. But sometimes through some focal ideas, you can help the whole process of planning. It's not instead the process of planning, it's to help. But like every acupuncture, it has to be fast, because if not, the needle will hurt you. So we're 25 people in my office. Well, we're going 3 or 4 people in some city. We're staying there for 1 week, 2 weeks, working with the local professionals, students, politicians, businessmen. After 2 or 3 weeks, we leave 1 or 2 ideas. If they like it, they can develop, or we can help them to develop. If they don't like it, there is no lose of money, no lose of time. And we're working, and we worked in Santiago los Caballeros, Dominican Republic, Plymouth, England. We're starting now in a very historic place in Bahia. So, and it gives a big experience, because we're sharing this experience with the people. It's not planned. It's like sharing ideas. So the most, in French they say, à mon avis, this is the most beautiful example of acupuncture. There's the pyramid in the Louvre. It's one gesture. With this one gesture, they solved the problem of centuries. But it doesn't have to be big. This is the smallest park in New York, the Paley Park, 53rd East. It's a beautiful park. Or the museum in Curitiba, Oscar Niemeyer's museum. He died recently with 104 years. He married at 99 years. He was a genius. So at 96, he did this project. and it's one of the most beautiful museums in the world. This is some acupuncture that our office were working on. This is the park of the Bossa Nova in Rio. You know, the Bossa Nova is the sound effect of the city of Rio, soundtrack of the city of Rio. So the whole history of the Bossa Nova is going to be showed in this park. They are not building yet because this park is being used for the works of the subway. After they finish this, they'll start the pavilion of the Bossa Nova. And this is, it's like a keyboard. I would say in Portuguese, it's a keyboard with o doce balanço do mar. This is the whole story of the Bossa Nova. This is another idea we developed for the big car racer Fittipaldi. We lost this race. This the mobility museum, it's an idea about freezed speed. And that's the architecture that we are developing. We developed for this idea. But sometimes it doesn't happen. And this is the work we did for Brasilia on the 50th anniversary. That was the idea. Trying to combine, because the city pilot plan is a very formal, but the region in Brasilia is chaotic. So we tried to give a form for this growth and a kind of analogy with the two metaphors. One is the plain and the lake and the birds and the woods. And this is the design we proposed. And this is one boulevard that will link the two parts. In Brasilia, there was the idea how to build a park in homage to Burle Marx, the great landscape architect. And you know, we have many in Sevilla. There is a beautiful building by Calatrava, which is called the Ombractum. It's to give shade. Of course, we didn't have that money to build a square, big structure for shade. So we proposed a very simple idea, some bouquets of bamboos. So I have an architect who is my partner. He knows everything about bamboos. When the bamboo is depressed, when it's not in good mood, so we designed this park, this place for shade. So every time, the idea is not wasting. Because I was the president of the UIA, the International Union of Architects, and we are very proud of our stars. But we need a constellation of architects that they are more committed to the cities and not spending. This is we did an old water supply tower. We organized, we transformed in a museum. This is a proposal we did for Oaxaca. They wanted to build a place for 10,000 people. I told them, you don't need for 10,000 people. It's 10,000 people, just the opening session. So probably you need 4 auditoriums, but you have a wonderful climate You can use the patio, big patio, for 10,000 people. You don't have to build this. And this is the park we're doing the project in Santiago Los Caballeros. It's a former plane terminal. It's a former, and we transformed in a beautiful park for young people. And there are a nursery for plants, and also, sometimes the place for shows looks like a parking. And the young people there bumping, tunch, 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 tunch. But you can have a better landscape with 4 towers, very simple towers, columns. We can have the idea of a theater. Very simple. And this is an idea for Mazatlan, Mexico. It's an island with dunes, with and we proposed a place, sand dunes. We proposed a place for 150,000 people, no cars, 0 car. It's for bicycles, and since it's a place, an island, where they have trees every 10 meters, they planted. So the idea is having the buildings in between the trees and the lighting of the streets through the trees. And very simple infrastructure. Not having to dig in a plain and where there is no, because if not you have to dig more and more. So, and they wanted to build a big hotel and convention center. Oh, I told them, well, it's not necessary to build in this landscape. So we tried to find out a place where to put this. And we discovered there was an island where they cut the half of the island of the stones, and they built a pier, but it was a half island. So we proposed the silhouette of this hotel, again restoring the island. This is where we are working now in 13 cities in Angola. And it's a hard job, very expensive place. And we started very simple redesigning streets. And so, you know, and the people there, at night they are all in the streets, they like, and we're working now in housing projects integrated to the cities. Very simple architecture, very low cost buildings, very simple materials, but we're trying to have an urban life. It's not just housing programs in a space, but we're trying to build a space, to have a space. And this is how it's going to be. And we are on the construction. Angola, Zango, also 13 cities. It's a lot of work. And now in Porto Alegre, Brazil, we're redeveloping the waterfront with a great firm of Spanish architects, great architect called Fermin Vasquez. We're redesigning this waterfront. And what is happening? They have a wall, concrete wall, to avoid flooding. But this is stupid, but you cannot see. And what is the guarantee that on the day where they'll have the maxima tragedia, the guy who is dealing with is going to be there, is going to, it's building a very expensive once in 50 years too, if it's going to happen. Because we have floods in Florence, we have floods in Germany, so we cannot build for the maxima tragedia. We have to deal with the daily tragedy of the city. And this is the wall where it was supposed not to protect from the water. We redesigned this wall with the water. And this is the waterfront in a park. We're developing this idea, and it's, well, they're starting to build. They are starting to build. And it's a whole new concept of a waterfront where it's, they have the most beautiful pôr do sol. It's sunset. At the end of the sunset, we designed a pavement with glass, some balls of glass, and it's going to be, well, having light. So at the end of the sunset, when it finishes the sunset, we'll have the stars and the chão de estrelas. So, and this is a very simple, the most brilliant cartoonist in the country died recently. This is design we made for this homage for him in Rio. So it's going to, we're finishing the work now. Oh, this is the museum of the individual. It's the idea. It's every person has a story. Museu da Pessoa is very hard to translate this. And the museum of the human being, or every person has a story. So there are two women, they made a wonderful work during years and years. They have more than 15,000 stories. So, and they asked me to design a place where they would like not having only the stories, but they want to organize some stories according themes, some ideas. So we proposed, since it's digital, we proposed a digital, and with the sand, it's going to be well, I hope it's going to start, this museum. And this is the bureaucracy wants always to build for the bureaucracy. They love to build for them, not for the people. So they wanted to build in this city, Canoas, close to Porto Alegre. They wanted to build a place where they could attract people for investment. And they built a whole place, big buildings for providing buildings with bureaucrats. I told them, no, we're going just to build one building. And this building, it's going to be called I Have an Idea. So we'll put people to make it happen, to help them to develop these ideas. This is called I Have an Idea. Oh, Florianópolis. It's a beautiful island in Brazil where they were proposing a new bridge. And they made the competition for that. And we decided it's not necessary, the bridge. So we proved that with 10% of the cost of the bridge, we could solve the whole problem of mobility in the city. Through a water system, a vaporetto, and 2 ferries. And this is, I hope it's going to be built. This is the city of Florianópolis. This is the last one of the projects we're doing for a city close to Rio for 200,000 people. There's a port and big facilities there. They're starting to have big investments, but they'll need people. Where are the people that are going to live? Not in very different areas. It has to be a normal city. But this place didn't have a story, didn't have hills, didn't have nothing, didn't have even people. But they had one difficulty. They had to fill 1 meter of the land because it's too low. So since we needed that land, we proposed to building canals and removing the land and designing the place with the water. It's going to be an Amsterdam of the future or something. So I'm going the next week to, there is a big meeting with, to approve this project. In a small city close to that place, we're designing a market or an art and science for education place in São Paulo. We're developing now this idea. Very, it's always with architecture, which is, I wouldn't say portable. You can move this. This is the place where we have the most important cultural places in São Paulo. The Pinacoteca, the Museum of Portuguese Language, and the Auditorium São Paulo. But the place is full of drug people. It's called Crackland. It's terrible. So the idea was bringing a street life to that place, because nobody wants to live there, because there is no street life. So we designed a portable street. And this is like the Bouquinistes in Paris. It's a portable street which can be built as a bus shelter, a newsstand, working station, in an airport, hotel, living, working station. The dock is similar. And this is the idea we developed in Rio for the portable street. And you're bringing it at night, on Friday night, you're removing it on Monday morning. And during the week, you can put this in front of a university or any other place. This is the prototype we did for the Festival of Theater in Curitiba. They are the portable streets, some of them. It's how they're going to be. It's the prototype. And in 1997, I was the governor, and we wanted to have, we planned the World Nature Games in my state, where in close to the Iguaçu Falls, where we have the most beautiful meeting of the human strength and the strength of nature. So, and we had just 6 months to organize the World Nature Games. And we did it. We didn't spend 1 cent in stadiums, arenas, nothing. Because it's on the air, it's ballooning, rafting, climbing the so it's World Nature Games. Another example, like just to finish, so it's we have 399 cities in my state, so we couldn't have theaters for every city. So we organized some cities with 3,000 people, they couldn't have a theater. So we organized a cultural convoy. We took existing buses, we recycled them, they were transformed for theater, music, opera, dance, and they were traveling during 5 years. They traveled all around the state, and we had an average of 1,500 people every night. So that's why I want to tell you, that's why it's so important, not wasting. If I could say, it's important not to waste. You have to have a commitment with simplicity. You have to have a commitment with imperfection, because you cannot have all the answers. So innovation is starting. So, and having the idea is, planning is like a trajectory where you start and you have to give some room to the people. They'll correct you if you're not on the right track. So I like a saying which is, I saw in Mexico, as in a small square it was written, mejor la gracia de la imperfección que la perfección sin gracia. Better the grace of imperfection than the perfection without grace. So I'd like to finish telling you a story. When I was in Puerto Rico in 1984, we made a project for mobility in San Juan. And the governor wanted to show this plan for the Senate. He organized a big meeting with newspapers, everything that was full, flashes all around. And we presented. And the governor said, bueno, a mí me gusta. ¿Qué le parece, señor secretario de Transportes? What's your opinion, your Secretary of Transport? And the Secretary of Transport started to mumble. Well, you know, we have to start our research, our origin and destiny, And the governor is becoming, his patience was, pero ¿cuándo vamos a empezar esto, señor secretario? When we're going to start? And the guy, bueno, vamos a ver, oír, empezar las pesquisas y todo esto. And the governor again, pero señor secretario, ¿cuándo vamos a empezar? And the guy said, bueno, so he started to mumble. And the governor, he clapped this. And I was very embarrassed. I wanted to dive. And then he started, pero ¿cuándo? That's a question that has to be done for the people they are working in cities. Pero ¿cuándo? And this is very important. Thank you. I would like to have your questions.
So thank you so much. This was truly inspiring. You talk a lot about your successes over the last many years, but I was curious of maybe some of your mistakes that you've made, and the biggest mistake. And second question: what book?
Biggest mistake.
What book has inspired you the most?
Well, I don't remember the mistakes. No. I have a lot of mistakes. We did a lot of mistakes. One of the mistakes I told you, we correct our planning of our parks. In many other, for instance, the industrial area is designed like a city with streets, everything. But my feeling is it has to do inside, to be inside the city. Nothing different. It's another mistake. Many other mistakes we did. I think we should. We made a beautiful planning for housing. We made beautiful planning for public transport, for parks. But it's not a mistake. I think it's necessary to bring more young people in downtown area. Because in many countries, the university is far from the city. What kind of students you can have if they don't have the knowledge about their own city? So I think we need more and more to have young people living in downtown area. It's still very livable, but we should have more. And okay.
Thank you for the talk. Curitiba is known for its transportation, in particular, the integrated transportation that you mentioned. I'm thinking rather in something like energy. Energy. Did you have or do you have a particular goal when you were a mayor or a governor in terms of how much energy per capita, for example, should be for the city, or that is also would be a mistake?
No, it's difficult to measure this. But if you have good transportation, you're saving energy. If you're separating garbage, you're saving energy. if you have people living close to their work, you're saving energy. So saving energy is a result of many ideas. What strikes me is in many cities of the world, mayors, governors, presidents are saying we're going to save 20% of our carbon emissions. And we don't know how. It's just a question of saying that. I want to know what they're doing for their own city. So, I think energy saving is a question of philosophy. The more you're working in the city with good public transport, separating garbage, living closer to work, more and more, saving more and wasting less, you will have a sustainable city. Okay?
That was fantastic. About that, do you ever, when you're designing buildings, do you ever do passive houses or houses or buildings that are self-sufficient from an energy point of view, or do you use solar windows, or do you do any particular innovation in terms of green design?
Well, not yet. Of course, many buildings we're projecting is trying to get the most sustainable way. But I give you an example. In 1963, I designed my house. I finished that house in 1966. I was a student when I designed the house. But at that time, we didn't speak about sustainability, and the roof is grass, so to protect climate. The fireplace, the wall where the fireplace, when we heated the fireplace, the wall from my room, it was warm. And most of the materials we used, we didn't waste. So when we had some wood we used on the walls, so it was and it still is a sustainable house. So, and we improved my office now, and of course more sustainable. But what I like is I've seen many places, many buildings, many people working with the idea of sustainable building. It's very important, but it's not enough, because we cannot be so naive that having a green building here and a green building here will pass through a city which is not green. More important is the city. I'm not saying it's not important. From now on, we have to have sustainable buildings, but we have to have sustainable cities. Yes? You first.
I just wonder, more and more of the people in our cities are older, living in their 70s, 80s and 90s, and they're not able often to use transport, not a public transport, don't have cars. How do you include those people in their cities? How do we stop those people from being left out of their cities?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a problem of almost deaf.
Yeah, elderly people.
Excuse me? About elderly people.
Elderly people. How do we keep them involved in their cities when they don't drive and they can't get on buses?
First of all, not having elderly communities. They have to be integrated to their own neighborhoods. So So we cannot just have buildings for elder people. It has to have a normal life. It has to be a normal life. So when we planned always a new housing program. We had places for elder people, but inside the new housing program, nothing separate. Yes?
As a follow-up to the previous two questions, what kind of renewable energy initiatives do you have? I know that much of Brazil's
What kind of
renewable energy, that much of Brazil's electricity is from hydropower. But if you could comment on solar, wind, other forms of energy. As you transport ethanol, what kind of fuel are you using?
Yeah.
Buses?
Well, more and more in public transport we're using hybrid, it's becoming a hybrid system. It's not enough. But I don't like sometimes many cities they are putting one bus, hydrogen cells, one bus in a park and saying, oh, we're so it's the whole system that has, I would say, if you have priority for public transport, it works much better than just renewable energy. But I'm not saying it's not important, I'm saying it's not enough. Okay, last question.
This question would probably speak more to your experience. Like as a mayor, my question is more about, you mentioned the disintegration of populations within cities, but I want you to speak more to the government itself, the different agencies, and how you go about creating this cohesion, like as you were mayor and now, and then also how your relationship with your cities works.
We have, every city has a huge number of different agencies. But you have to have an idea, a proposal, one structure of living, working together. That's the decision of the city. And to make all the agencies working for that purpose. It's like, for instance, proposing, the more complicated it is, you have to propose. Proposing a scenario, an idea, a project that everyone, or the large majority, they'll understand it is desirable. It is a desirable dream. Sometimes when I'm going to a city, I'm trying to ask mayors, what is the problem you have? They are starting to tell, we have traffic problems, floods problems, and so and so. And okay, and sometimes I make a break and ask the mayor or the governor, okay, but what is your dream? And sometimes they don't know. What is your dream which is not related to the problems? What's your real dream? So I met the mayor, the governor of Parana in Russia, very clever man. And I asked him, he tried to explain me the problems of the city, and then I asked him, okay, but what's your dream? And he very simply said, my dream is having all my young people in my city, which is far close to Siberia, I would like not, they won't have to go to Moscow. They want, and I told him, and what you're doing? I'm trying to have a good city for young people and for kids. And what you're doing. So he introduced me to his Secretary of Culture, very bright man. And this Secretary of Culture, they tell me the idea how to transform this city in the cultural center of Russia. That's a dream. probably it's not going to happen everything, but something it would happen. So having a dream is important. If not, we're going to stay always running after the problems. So, to finish, I would like to tell you a story of dreams. I'm a very lucky man, because during my life I could fulfill many dreams. But I'm not saying about political dreams or professional dreams. I'm telling you about normal dreams that everyone has. I wanted to marry a woman that I loved. I wanted to see my children. I wanted to raise my children. I want to have their their wedding. I want to. So, and I had this chance. And I can tell you one thing that I learned. If you cannot fulfill your dream, don't be frustrated. Because if you're really involved, if you're deeply involved in these dreams, you realize that one time, this dream will turn around you, will hit you, and will ask you, you remember me? I am your dream. It's your second chance. Don't lose it. Thank you.